All right, so we're back and ready to dive deep into something pretty interesting,
Yeah.
I think.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Bill Clinton, former President Bill Clinton, had
Yeah.
some thoughts about both Hillary Clinton's loss in 2016
Right.
and Kamala Harris's performance in 2020.
Mhm.
And it's kind of interesting. He kind of links those events to
Yeah.
kind of some bigger cultural shifts and some societal turmoil that was happening.
Absolutely.
And all of this is from an interview he did with Tracy Smith on CBS about his book, Citizen.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so right away, like right off the bat, he says this really bold thing. He's like, if Hillary had been the nominee in 2008,
Huh.
she would have won just like Obama did.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
I mean, it's a really interesting claim, right?
Yeah.
But I think we have to remember 2008 was a very specific moment in time.
Yeah.
You had the financial crisis that was sort of brewing. You had people who were, I think, ready for a change after 8 years of a Republican president.
Mm,
And then you have Obama who, ran this historic campaign and won.
of course.
So to say that Hillary would have had the exact same victory,
Right.
I think there are a lot of moving parts there, and it's tough to say for sure.
Yeah, there are so many factors.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to just like isolate one and be like, well, if this, then that.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know.
Totally agree.
But a little bit later in the interview, he starts talking about
Yeah.
how he thinks the U.S. has been moving to the right, especially as a reaction to kind of all the, quote, turmoil that was happening around that time.
Yeah.
And he thinks that this shift really impacted the 2016 election.
Interesting.
When he says turmoil, what comes to mind? What's he talking about?
Well, he doesn't really get super specific in the interview.
Yeah.
But I think if we just think about what was going on at the time,
Yeah.
right? You have the aftermath of the 2008 recession, which, really hit a lot of people hard.
For sure.
Social media was kind of exploding at the time. And with it, you see this intense political polarization
Yeah.
that I think continues to this day.
Yeah.
And then globally, you have events like the Arab Spring and the rise of ISIS. I think there was just this general sense of instability
Right.
at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he's maybe tapping into this feeling that things were changing really rapidly
Yeah.
and not always in ways that people felt comfortable with.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a whirlwind for sure.
For sure.
And then, he goes even further and he's talking about how these cultural battles that were going on at the time added like another layer of difficulty for women running for president. What kind of battles do you think he's referring to?
I mean, again, he doesn't get super explicit, but, if you look back at that time, you see debates that are raging about, gender roles, family structures, representation in media.
Yeah.
Even, the early stirrings of what would become the Me Too movement.
Right.
We're starting to gain some traction.
Yeah.
So, all of those things I think could be seen as cultural battles.
Yeah.
And they definitely, bleed into political campaigns.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he even uses this really powerful quote.
Oh, yeah.
He says, if you're a man and you say, I want to break the mold, they say, he's a visionary. If you're a woman and you say the same thing, they say, we're not sure we can trust her.
Wow.
It's pretty insightful.
It is, yeah. I think it really highlights how women in positions of power are often, viewed through a different lens, held to different standards.
Exactly. Yeah. And it makes me think about, Kamala Harris's experience in 2020. Even though she wasn't obviously at the top of the ticket, do you think she faced any similar challenges because of these, cultural battles?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, think about some of the criticisms that she faced, right?
Yeah.
About her ambition, her assertiveness, these qualities that, in a male candidate might be seen as strengths.
Right.
But in her case were sometimes, framed as negatives.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, it seems like what Clinton's trying to say here is that, you have the political landscape and then all this anxiety and these cultural clashes and all this kind of created a tough environment.
Yeah.
For women like Hillary and Kamala.
Yeah.
To try to, win a presidential election.
It's interesting.
And he doesn't really say if he thinks those same forces might be at play in future elections too.
Right.
What do you think?
That's a big question. And it's tough to predict.
Yeah.
I think On the one hand, we've seen progress.
Right.
More women are running for office, winning elections, you know, breaking barriers that were once thought to be unbreakable.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the cultural battles that we were talking about, they haven't really disappeared.
Yeah. No, they're still there.
They're still there.
Yeah.
And so it's really something for all of us to, to keep thinking about and keep engaging with.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today.
Okay.
I really appreciate you taking the time to dive deep with me.
Yeah, no problem. This was really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
A lot to think about.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.